What's up, y'all? I'm Ashley. Have you ever been shamed into gratitude? Now, if you're wondering what that means, so for example, if you have a job, you're working somewhere and you're getting paid really good, you have a really good relationship with your manager, a lot of freedom to kind of move around like you need to, but you're just not feeling it no more. You're not as passionate about it as you used to be, and you don't enjoy it the way that you used to, and you want something different, or you're feeling like you just want to quit altogether and start your own business. And you tell somebody this, you vent to a friend or a coworker or whoever, and you're like, girl, you got a good job and you get paid real good and you this and you that and you complaining about it. You know what I'm saying? And it makes you feel ashamed to talk about it openly because you feel like you should be grateful for this opportunity that you have. Well, that's what I call being shamed into gratitude, when you are made to feel like you should be grateful for something that you personally do not have gratitude for the way that somebody else does. And I don't think that I'm not advocating that we should not be grateful for the blessings that we have. But what I'm saying is, what may be okay for somebody else may not be okay for you. And that's all right. Okay. And so for me, for example, growing up, I grew up with both of my parents on drugs, and my mom got off drugs when I was 16. And so, she got off drugs because my sister-in-law at the time was pregnant with my nephew, and she said that she didn't want my nephew to know that person. So she wanted to get off drugs so that he didn't have to experience the drug addict her, And I was like, well, wait a minute, because I dealt with her for 16 years, and this little boy ain't even in the world yet, and you want to get off drugs because you don't want him to know that person? And when I've told people that in the past, they be like, well, you should just be grateful that your mom got off drugs, because a lot of people are not able to kick that habit. A lot of people die in that state. And so the fact that your mom was able to get off drugs, you should just be grateful for that. Now, let me say this. I am grateful that my mom and my dad was able to get off drugs, at different times in their life. But that doesn't change the fact that growing up with both of your parents on drugs was very challenging. I remember, having a very unstable childhood until 16. And I mean, 16, my childhood is pretty much over, because in 2 years I'm 18, and then, I'm doing my own thing. And so I remember my childhood being unstable. I remember having to get buckets of water from the neighbor house to take a bath because our water was cut off, and having to run extension cords from the neighbor's house to watch TV because our lights was off. And so one month it was the water, the next month it was, the lights. And in my mom's defense, struggling with a drug addiction, working 2 jobs, raising 3 kids as a single parent, she did the best that she could. But at the end of the day, her best still caused a lot of trauma for me, and I remember staying in the hood, and I'm not talking about just the hood as in like, it's a little rugged or, fights and stuff. I'm talking about drug dealers on the corner. I'm talking about drive-by shootings every other day while we're outside playing. I'm talking about bullets coming through the living room wall, while I'm sitting in the living room writing in my journal. I'm talking about, having rats and, well, not rats, but mice and roaches in the house, to where you got to shake your shirts and stuff before you put them on. And if you pack in a bag to go somewhere, you got to shake that bag real good to make sure ain't nothing in there, or you got to shake the cereal box before you pull the cereal in your bowl to make sure ain't nothing. I'm talking about that kind of hood. Okay, I remember growing up like that. I remember not having food in the house when the food stamps ran out. Mom worked, one of her jobs, she worked at a fast food restaurant. So we would just have to wait until she got off and came home with food. And so I remember being hungry throughout the day, waiting on her to come home, whatever time she came home, with food for us to have something to eat. And so when I think about what I had to experience as a child with 2 parents that were battling drug addictions in their own world, doing their own thing, and I'm experiencing a lack of love and a lack of attention and a lack of affirmation and a lack of support from them the way a child would need it, I can't ignore that pain because my mom decided to get off drugs when I was 16, and so I can still appreciate the fact that something pushed her enough to get off drugs, and still grieve the fact that I had a hard childhood because I had to deal with my mom being on drugs. And so for a long time, I would avoid saying anything how I really felt about that because I didn't want to look like I was being ungrateful, And so when I started my healing journey, that was something that I had to unpack because when I was dealing with my lack of self-worth, that was one of the things that contributed to it because I felt like I wasn't enough for her to get off drugs. You watching your children go through that wasn't enough for you to get off drugs. But when your grandson come into the world, you decide, okay, I don't want him to know that person. So here's my fresh start. I'm going to get off drugs. And so it really took for me to have to be okay with people disagreeing with me and how I felt, and to say, listen, while I am grateful and I do appreciate my mom getting off drugs when she did, and I finally was able to get my own room. She bought a house and all that stuff. And so she did really good for herself when she got off drugs. Finally had my own room, finally was in a nicer neighborhood and didn't have to worry about the stuff that we had to worry about. No more roaches, no more mice, no more electricity getting cut off. Like, it was finally stable for a good 2 years before I went off to college. But I still had to unpack what it felt like growing up in that household. I still have to unpack how triggered I am about not being financially stable. I still have to unpack and deal with the fact that, not getting that attention and that love that I felt like I needed as a child, that all children need from their parents. I still had to deal with what that felt like, not getting that, not having a parent to go talk to because they're in their own world doing their own thing, not getting the hugs and the time and the vacations and the family trips and, none of those things, not having the birthday parties and all that, because there was never enough money to do anything, not because, she didn't have it, but because the money was used for things that it shouldn't have been used for. And so I still have to unpack and grieve and deal with how that childhood affected me and what that looks like today. And I think one of the biggest things that people don't realize is a lot of our childhood and the things that we've experienced impact who we are now as adults. So the reason why you feel the way you feel about certain things has a lot to do with your childhood. It has a lot to do with the things that was communicated to you by your parents or whoever raised you. There's a reason why, I get frustrated when I feel like, my husband's not helping me. Even if it's something as small as him taking out the trash. I can remember years back being so frustrated over him not taking out the trash. Now, I know a lot of women struggle with this with their husbands, right? But I'm talking about, like, I'm ready to pack up. Because why I gotta keep telling you to take the trash out? You see the trash piling up just like I do. Why I gotta be the only one doing everything? Well, why does that even bother me? Who told me that the man has to be the one to take the trash out? Where did I get that from? You know what I'm saying? And so when I started my healing journey, I had to question everything. Why does that frustrate me so much? Who told me that that's something that has to be done by a man? What's wrong with me taking the trash out? Because I noticed the trash piling up just like he do. You know what I'm saying? And as the man, he's carrying a lot of weight of this family as well. So what is it about certain roles that I feel like he absolutely has to do this? Because I'm talking about, like, y'all, I would not take the trash out. I would let that mug climb the wall before I take it out because I felt like you the one that's supposed to be doing it. So you're going to do it. Now, of course, I don't do that now. I've grown since then. But back then, listen, I wasn't touching it, okay? And so as I started unpacking, where I am and why I felt that way, I realized that while I can be grateful, for where I am, and I can be grateful for my husband, but I can still address things that affect me and what I have a problem with. I can be grateful that my mom was able to walk away from her drug addiction, but I can still grieve and have a problem with the fact that you didn't do it for me. What does that feel like to have to accept the fact that my mom was able to watch me or okay with watching me go through that? And of course, let me just, preference this by saying I've never been addicted to anything. So I don't know the mindset that you're in when you're struggling with a drug addiction. So, this is not me downplaying that struggle. This is just me saying, as a child, watching my mom struggle, both of my parents, but I lived with my mom. So that's why my focus is on my mom right now. Watching my mom struggle with her drug addiction and how much it affected her children, and me having a hard time understanding why that wasn't enough for her to fix it. Because if you was able to walk away from it just like that, then you should have walked away from it when we got evicted. The multiple times we got evicted, to me, that would have been enough. You know what I'm saying? But for whatever reason, it wasn't. And her journey is her journey. And guess what? My journey is mine. And so while I'm having to deal with all the side effects, and the residue of that childhood, I should be able to say that I feel some type of way that my nephew was important enough or was significant enough to you for you to get off drugs for him, but you didn't do it for your three, And so what I want to encourage you is to own where you are and own how you feel. And even if people don't understand why that's a problem for you or why you're not just grateful, that's okay. You can still be grateful and still be upset and still be angry or still be resentful. Don't live there. You know what I'm saying? Don't unpack and live there, but deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Deal with the resentment, deal with the fear and with the anger and all those things that all those emotions that you're feeling because of your experience. And you can still be grateful. One of the things that I recently learned with something that I went through is I'm either one extreme or the other. And I've learned this about myself. I'm either completely happy or completely not happy. And I don't know how to be both. And I'm learning that I can be both. So I can be grateful that she was able to walk away from it, but I can also be sad that she wasn't able to do it for me. And deal with the fact that how that made me feel and unpack it enough to be able to say that was her struggle, but her struggle has nothing to do with where I am and what in my significance. And so my baby crying, my significance. And so once I separate the two, that her struggle has nothing to do with my significance, I can start the process of overcoming how that made me feel, but I can't avoid addressing it. And I feel like the problem a lot of times is we're made to feel like we just have to avoid how we feel and ignore how we feel and just push it off to the side. And so, no, we're not going to push it off to the side. We're going to deal with it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to unpack it, and we're going to be real about how we feel about it. And then we're going to move on from it. And so I'm learning right now how to be both. And I'm learning how to own and to be confident in where I am and how I feel, regardless to who agree and who understand, and be able to say, listen, I'm not resentful towards her for that, but it does bother me. Okay. And I'm going to deal with the fact that it bothers me. And I'm going to talk about the fact that it bothers me. And I'm going to be honest about why and how much it bothers me. But I'm also going to be like, thank you, God, that she didn't die in that state. Thank you, God, that my mom is still here. Thank you, God, that I've been able, the latter part of my life, I've been able to experience her not being on drugs. Thank you, God, that my nephew was able to experience the best parts of my mom because he doesn't know, the drug addicted her. You know what I'm saying? And so I can be grateful to that. So I want to encourage you to allow yourself to unpack what your experience was, no matter how other people feel about it. And don't allow yourself to be shamed into gratitude because your experience is not somebody else's experience. And so, as always, make sure to like, if you haven't already, subscribe and share this, because there's a lot of people that's struggling with this. I run into so many people that share these same thoughts and feelings with me. And it's like the light bulb that goes off that, listen, you can do both and you can experience both and overcome still. You know what I'm saying? Without being made to feel like you have to respond a certain way. So this generation, we're not going to stuff this stuff down, okay? We're not going to pretend like it's okay when it's not. We're not going to act like and put that brave face on like we are right when we not all right. But we're going to be okay. We still going to be believers. We still going to love God. But we're going to be okay with saying, I'm not okay, but I'm working on getting okay. I'm working on getting there, and I'm doing the work to get to where I need to be, but I'm not there right now. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all for watching. Please make sure to share this, because I guarantee you there's a bunch of people out there that need to know that you do not have to be shamed into gratitude for somebody else's comfort.